I say that?
Okay, what's the date today?
October 24th?
And it's Thursday, we're down here at the downtown library. And let me introduce our viewers to who we are and what we're doing here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit, Grace. Excuse me, Trudy.
He just renamed me.
And Trudy,
Grace.
you're Trudy Springer, and
Yes.
you've been a long-time activist and participant with the Olympia Food Co-op, correct?
Yes, I've been a working member for 4 years. And
Four
I've been-
years.
and
When
I've
you
been
say
a
working
member of a-
member, is this a paid position, or are you just volunteering as a citizen that's interested in your community? I mean, is it a paid?
Volunteering as a citizen that's interested in my
They don't
community.
give you a nickel.
We get little orange cards. that
You
are-
get a discount, but
Yeah,
do
we're getting a
do you ever
discount.
get a check or any
No.
kind?
No.
So you have to spend money to take advantage of your, the benefits of being a volunteer.
I don't look at it that way. I don't look at it that way.
Good for you. All right, Trudy, you asked something before I began here, that this is Soul Snatcher Productions. And
And he's
this is
snatching my
John Smith
soul.
acting in his capacity to interview Trudy about her association with and her goals for the Olympia Food Co-op. Trudy, what would you like to see and for the viewers to know to come out of this interview? What are you hoping to accomplish?
Well, I'm hoping to be a new board member for the co-op because I see the co-op growing and having a lot of challenges, which all businesses have. And because of my experiences over my lifetime, I think I could be an asset to the challenges
Okay.
facing the co-op.
And what have those experiences been, if you want to summarize them?
Do you
It's up
really
to
want my sordid work, do you?
Well, I don't want your entire life, 25 words or less, but maybe 50.
Okay, well, let's start from when I was out here.
Okay.
My experiences out here.
Mhm.
I was a leader in the Tacoma Light Brigade, which was
You
fighting.
were the Tacoma, what brigade?
Light Brigade.
And what was
It
that?
was an organization fighting the Washington Public Power Supply System. They wanted to build 25 nuclear power plants.
Okay, so you
Here in
were
the state of
protesting
Washington.
nuclear war?
Yes. No, nuclear power plants.
Oh, nuclear power, like whoops.
Whoops, that's what I just said,
Yeah, I
Washington
remember
Public Power
whoops.
Supply
Yeah.
System.
Mhm. Okay.
And I became an organizer through that. I
Okay.
developed as a leader. I became an organizer, worked as Washington Fair Share. We worked on the right to know legislation, which said workers have a right to know what toxic chemicals they're being exposed to in the
Mhm.
workplace.
So you were worker rights advocate?
Yes. And we worked on the cost of living increase for Social Security recipients. Then I went to work for the Martin Luther King Ecumenical Center, which is a shelter for the homeless, women, families, veterans. Then I went to work for the Pierce County AIDS Foundation, which worked with people dying of AIDS back in the 80s,
Mhm.
and I was the bookkeeper there.
Okay.
And from there, I became a temporary employee. I worked as the carpet cleaning receptionist. I worked as secretary to Lily Blad Petroleum in Tacoma.
Mhm.
And then I wound up at Backdorf and Brownson Coffee Roasters.
Well, it sounds like, would it be fair to say that you have quite a few bona fides as a community activist and have paid your dues in that respect?
Yes.
Okay. And what do you hope to bring in the way of change, if any, to the Olympia Food Co-op? You're running for the position that's up to the members to elect
Mhm.
for the board of directors of the Olympia Food Co-op. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And have you ever served on a board of directors in the past?
No.
Okay. So what would you like to see as a result of, if you were elected to that position,
I would like to see
What's your platform? What changes would you bring, or would you bring any?
I'm running on a platform of transparency. I would like to see more transparency at the co-op.
Okay.
I think they do a good job of that now, but it could always be improved.
Uh-huh.
I am not aware of all of the challenges facing the co-op at this time because I'm not privy to all that information. But as I gain the information, like I said, transparency, intercommunications, improving intercommunications. As I said, I've had diversity training at the when I was at Pierce County AIDS Foundation. And
Well, could I ask what, I'm familiar with the word diversity, but what is diversity training?
At Pierce County AIDS Foundation, we brought in somebody to help us understand the different cultures. Like European culture tends to be linear, sequential in thinking. African and Asian culture tends to be community-oriented, circular. It's what, the benefit of the whole instead of the individual. And it was to understand where people are coming from those different ethnic backgrounds.
Were you with the co-op when there was a conflict in a lawsuit involving boycotting goods that originated in Israel?
Yes.
Okay. And I have a story to share with you, and I want to ask what your thoughts are in how you would handle something like this if you were a member of the board of directors. A friend of mine who's a practicing Catholic, but his family origins are Jewish, and he volunteered at the co-op. But before they would accept his application, they insisted that he sign a letter tantamount to a loyalty oath disavowing Israel, and he refused to do that. Do you feel that that is something that the Olympia Food Co-op is is that appropriate for a community food co-op? In your view, your
Well,
opinion.
the Olympia Food Co-op is very clear that part of their mission is social justice.
Social justice?
Yes, they're committed to social justice. So they're not like other co-ops when it comes to that, because that is a priority for them. They do focus on that. I remember the event you're talking about. And although
Now, do you remember who the parties involved were?
Well, vaguely. I was just becoming aware of things at the co-op at that time. And I remember how divisive it was. I remember it split the co-op.
It was, I remember, from the outside, it seemed quite divisive, and it played out in the courtroom. Yeah.
Well, I was not aware of the courtroom aspect.
No, there was a lawsuit.
Oh, that's right. I do remember the Jewish contingent.
The co-op won the lawsuit.
Well, I'm unaware of all of that. I do know that when they had the public meeting, they allowed everybody to get up and speak to what they were addressing, whether they agreed with the boycott or whether they disagreed with the boycott. I personally agreed with the boycott because I think what the Zionists are doing in Gaza is wrong. And just as the Nazis were wrong for what they did to the Jews are wrong for what they're doing to the Palestinians.
Okay. But would you like to see the Olympia Food Co-op continue to be a social justice warrior or an advocate for social justice, or would its first mission be a place for people to shop for groceries?
That's a good question, and that's one of the questions I want to ask the co-op myself if I become a board member, because I agree with social justice. I fought for that all my life. I have no problem with social justice, but not to the extreme. And I don't know if they're there. I do know that the priority is the food and making sure that we're selling organic, high-quality food, which we do. They do that.
Is it part of their mission to sell that at an affordable price?
I don't know what the financials are. I don't know how much of an increase they're doing over what they pay for it. I don't know any of
Have you
that.
shopped there?
That's all part of my learning curve if I become a board member.
Sure. Have you shopped in the co-op?
Yes, but I get my discount, so I'm not paying what.
But are you aware of like what prices are going for versus, I assume you've shopped at places other than the co-op?
Yes, and I
like
have seen-
Winco or Fred Meyer's or Safeway.
Bayview Thriftway. Bayview Thriftway is where I tend to shop, Bayview
So,
or Ralph's.
in your opinion, if you weren't a volunteer with a discount, like, how would the prices, in your opinion, compare to the other venues that you've shopped for?
Well, I
groceries?
shopped at the co-op before I was a working member, and I didn't think the prices were out of line that much.
So you know how much, unlike one of our, not so long ago, presidential candidates, you know how much a gallon of milk and a dozen eggs costs?
Yeah, they're pricey, you know, a gallon of milk
I think
is-
George Bush Senior, when he was running for president, was asked that question by a
Yeah.
reporter. He couldn't answer it.
Well, a gallon of milk is four something, and then, what was the other one you said?
I can't hear you.
I said a gallon of milk is like four something, and a
Oh,
dozen eggs,
it's
$5 to
okay.
$6 bucks.
It's okay. So,
But you're getting quality, see, that's the thing. I know, I shop, I get free range, pasture-raised eggs. I'm not getting farm-raised, factory farm-raised eggs. I'm getting quality eggs. And I do expect to pay more for that.
I understand there's been a proposal to the co-op and the board of directors to sell alcohol in the co-op. I'm not sure I understand what the proposal is. Do you know anything about that?
Vaguely, I'm not an expert on this, but I've heard that they're not going to be selling hard liquor.
What about beer?
I think, there again, I'm at a disadvantage, because I did hear something about it, but it's limited what they're going to be selling.
Well, let me ask you, I've been in that co-op.
Mhm.
They don't have the floor space like Safeway or Fred Meyer's has. Do you think it's a good use of their limited floor space to have a aisle or a shelf dedicated to things like beer?
That's a tough one, because it's hard to say, because they've been able to make room for all of the products that they've added.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think they're gonna be carrying that much of the alcohol. That's my understanding. I could be wrong. But my understanding is they're gonna be very
Has there
limited.
been any controversy surrounding the proposal?
My understanding is there has been some controversy around that.
Well, on that note, Trudy, you're running for an elective office, so it's not the best way to become elected to, I guess, say anything too controversial while you're running for office, because you're most likely to lose votes more likely than to gain votes by taking a controversial position. But would it be fair to say that there is some controversy currently going on in the community and in the food co-op internally regarding how its mission is managed and whether it's overstepping its authority and mission in how it deals with members, both of the co-op and people in the community?
Yes, there is controversy about that right now, yes.
Oh, like,
And
do you
divisiveness.
know who Dana Walker is?
Yes, I do know who Dana Walker
Okay.
is.
And I've reported on that, and so I know a little bit about it, and I've talked to Dana. And I recently, just a couple of nights ago, read a response to him that was posted on, I think it's called Opium, which is it's a discussion group that's closed. You have to have the
Oh, I'm not
password.
familiar with that.
At any rate, Robin Wagner, are you familiar with her?
I've heard the name.
Okay, now, what's her position there?
I don't even know. I know she's a staff member, but I
Okay.
don't know what her position is.
Is she in charge of the day-to-day operations?
The whole staff is. From what I understand, the staff is responsible for operations.
You know who Grace is?
Yes, I do know who
Okay,
Grace is.
she's been with the co-op almost from
From the
the
inception,
beginning.
practically, yes.
Yeah. Well, in Robin's written statement, she said that the reason he was banned, Dana Walker has now been trespassed by the staff, and apparently board of directors went along with it, from even entering the premises there. And that was based on the allegation that he made a face when somebody by the name of Shauna Hawk, a black woman, came in, and she's a member of the co-op and shops there, and I don't know, she may volunteer there too. Does she volunteer there?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay,
Lisa Ganser
but she does shop there.
Yeah, Lisa
Okay.
Ganser's a volunteer, but I don't know about Shauna.
So in pursuing the social justice angle, Robin Wagner said that everybody agreed that Dana should be banned because he was exercising white male privilege by making a face. And you say that it's part of the mission. I don't know if that was when it was conceived, maybe it's evolved since then, for the co-op to promote diversity principles and
That's always been part of the mission.
and tolerance, would that be fair to say?
Well, it's always been part of their mission for diversity. Diversity has always been part of their mission.
Okay.
In this particular case, that's a sticky thorn there, because it's another issue that's dividing the co-op and the community. By the
So you believe that there is some tension between at least some elements or factions in the
Yes,
community
definitely.
and the
Definitely.
Olympia? Is
Definitely.
that something that you think the Olympia Food Co-op should stick to its principles and pursue, or do you think that there needs to be a resolution of those tensions?
I think there needs to be a resolution of those tensions. I think we need to find common ground, show each other respect and understanding and compassion, which I think has been lacking, and hopefully we can resolve it in a positive way. I want to build bridges. I do not want to burn bridges.
Okay. Well, I have some more questions, but I don't want to end up, about this being about my views. So,
Right.
Now that I've asked the questions that I have, can you add anything to that? And then I'm going to follow up with some examples and ask how that
Add
fits
to,
in.
what would you want me to add to? I mean, the situation at the co-op?
Do you know Dana Walker?
Yes, I do know Dana Walker. I like Dana Walker.
Should he have been trespassed?
No, I do not agree that he should have been trespassed.
You don't feel like he's a threat to members of the
No, I do
co-op?
not think he's a threat to the members.
Do you think that the issues that are going on surrounding that maybe be larger than Dana Walker?
Yes.
What would those issues be in your view?
That's hard to say because I don't know all the information at this point. I think that it's a personality problem as well as a power problem, a control issue with some people. But as I say, I don't know all the players, I don't know all of the facts. So for me to talk out of turn, I see an injustice had happened and should be addressed. But that's just my take on it.
Well, this word injustice, it gets thrown around a lot. What do you mean by it?
Something that was unfair, something that was not handled correctly.
Is the
A punitive measure.
If I could throw some more specifics, would that in part at least be due to effective due process?
Could be. I don't know what the process was. I've gotten conflicting, confusing reports on what the process was.
Are you aware that Dana Walker is a journalist?
Yes, I am.
Okay, and long-standing and well-known in the community?
Yes, I'm aware of that.
Okay. You knew that he sold newspapers
Yes.
in the parking lot outside the co-op for many years?
Well, I do cashiering on Fridays, and that's the one day of the week that Dana was there. because I would always try to buy a newspaper from him or give him some money towards it if I couldn't buy the newspaper.
Was he creating, to your knowledge, while he was there, like, was he being disruptive
No,
or
not at all.
intimidating people? Or
Not at all.
He wasn't like an aggressive panhandler type personality?
No, but I'm from New York.
I guess a relative term,
Yeah,
isn't
thank
it?
you. I'm not used to all this passive aggressiveness.
Well, you know, if I get on to a bus, local or I'm from Mason County there, a lot of people aren't aware of this, but everything I say and do, conversation I might be having with C sitting next to me, it's being recorded. And a video is being taken. Now, if I'm talking to C, let's say as a hypothetical example, and I say, boy, you know, those Democrats, they're just real Nazis. I mean, and I just start going off on the Democrats. Or Obama, who was a black president. Many people I know were very proud to vote for the first black president in the history of the United States. Okay. But if, you know, I start going off and going, well, he's not even an American citizen, he wasn't born in the United States. Should the Mason County Transit Authority have the right to trespass and ban me from using that public conveyance? It's tax supported. The co-op is a nonprofit organization. It avoids a lot of taxes, and consequently it has additional duties that you may not be aware of. Like, for example, we have an Open Records Act that the citizens passed in this state. But that applies to nonprofits too. I can go and I can say, I want to see these records, produce them, and if they refuse, I can go to court and ask for the sanctions imposed against them that are defined in the RCW. So they're subject to the Open Records Act, whereas a private for-profit corporation might not be. So the more obligations you avoid by being a charity or a nonprofit, the larger the responsibility that you have to the public. Okay? And so I'm using the bus example, and I'm going to segue to Dana. So if I'm on their property and I'm having a conversation, or gee, I turn to C in the seat next to me on the bus and I make a face at him, and who knows if I'm serious or whether it's an inside joke, or maybe he misinterprets it. Does a public or quasi-public organization have the right to trespass me on that basis? Isn't that a violation of First Amendment principles, free speech, free expression? I mean, the Supreme Court said nude dancers, you know, you can't arrest them for dancing nude because that's artistic expression. Okay, so you know,
When you say the co-op is
these are weighty things, but if you were elected, you're going to be confronted with those. How are you going to handle that?
Well, first of all, I need to understand the co-op's nonprofit, not-for-profit status. They're not considered a nonprofit. They're considered a not-for-profit. The laws changed. And my understanding is they were grandfathered in.
That's right.
So I would need to learn what that status means for them. I don't think it makes them a charity.
They do charge tax on some food items there that they say are taxable, so it's obvious that they pay taxes
Right.
for those items.
Right.
But they may not be paying real estate taxes, I haven't checked.
See, that I don't know. This
Yeah.
is all stuff I would need to know
But the point
before I
is,
could make a
like
decision.
if you get exempted from property tax because you claim to be a public library,
Mhm.
don't you have a duty to make the books that you claim are in the library available
Right,
to
they
the,
do.
to the
That's
general
true.
public?
They do. They do.
Okay.
But like I said, I have to find out what that status means for the co-op, because I've heard two conflicting things about it. One is that it is like a charity and they do have to be responsive. The other one was, no, they're like a private business and they have the right to say who is on their property and who isn't. That is why it's going to court, for a judge to make that decision.
Well,
I'm not a
that happened in
judge.
Pruneyard.
I can't make that decision.
Well,
Without all the facts, I don't know.
There are people that I think you'd agree are making those kinds of decisions right now.
True, that's true. That's true, there are. And that's unfortunate.
And I'm not sure that they're trained or competent to do so.
I would have to agree with you on that. I don't think they are either. That's my sense.
The Pruneyard case, which arose in California, there was a conflict, and it actually was a private piece of property. It was a mall. Nothing nonprofit or not for-profit
Right.
about it. It's purely a for-profit organization. Now, like most malls, they had a huge parking lot. And there were union members that were distributing leaflets in the parking lot because they had a labor dispute with the mall. Working conditions, wages, and so forth, whatever. You said you were from New York, right?
Right.
Okay, so you know about this kind of stuff. The mall security came out and said, hey, you're on private property, get off. And you go, well, no. Anyway, the police were called and ended up in court. And it went all the way to the Supreme Court. Took it a while. The Supreme Court ruled in favor of the union. They said, well, this is a quasi-public area. They weren't disrupting. It's where people during normal business hours would gather, park the car. Oh, hi, Joe. And they'd talk, okay? And we don't expect the mall to come out and say, oh, you guys can't talk about that. And we would, I think, recognize. So the real issue here, when I said there's a bigger issue than Dana, is many people feel that the First Amendment only gives us protection from the government. But anything that we can even remotely call private, maybe not a public park. I have seen bus transit authorities censor people's speech. I question whether they have a right to do that. That sounds like government censorship to me. Okay, but a lot of America is privately owned. So is there a difference between if I'm in your front room and your grade school children are there and I start saying things and using foul language, you might say, hey, if you're going to talk like that, you're going to have to leave. I don't want you talking like that around my kids. But if I'm in a mall or in a bus and you overhear me, do you have the right to demand that I be banned? If I make a face or somebody misinterprets the face I'm making, maybe they're a hysteric or a drama queen, okay? There's a lot of that going around. Do you want the food co-op to be sticking its nose in that kind of business when the conflict hadn't even arisen around the co-op? My understanding with Dana is the conflict between him and Shauna Hawk originated with the Media Island House, which is right across the street here from the library that we're in.
Yeah, that's my understanding of it too.
So if my wife comes to the food co-op and she says, and it's possible, hey, my husband, John Smith, he's a real asshole. You should hear the way he talks to me, and he makes faces at me.
But that's why I went to court.
Is the food co-op going to ban?
But that's why I went to court, isn't it? I mean, she took him to court to get a restraining order.
And
She
she
lost.
was shut down, I was
And she
there.
lost, right, because she was trying to infringe on
In
his
fact,
First Amendment
Dana
rights.
didn't even have to put on a case.
I understand that. I listened to the transcripts from the,
Oh, very good.
I listened to that.
Yeah, I purchased those audios.
And I admire that judge. I think he did an excellent job.
Well, he did a pretty
And-
good lecture, didn't he?
Right, and going to your point about private property versus public, there again is gonna have to be decided in a court of law. Because as I told you, I'm hearing, on the one hand, they don't have the right to do that, and on the other hand, a mall is multiple businesses, it's not just one business. It's multiple businesses in one location.
That's true.
And that is why that case won for the union. Their contention, and I don't know, as I said, I'm not a judge, their contention, from what I've heard, the co-op feels they're a private business and they have a right to say who comes in and who does not come in. It's
Well,
like they've reserved the right to refuse service to anyone.
I think this private is, instead of a bright line, it's fuzzy. But I will grant you that, like with unions, the
Mhm.
courts have said unions have a right to discipline their members.
Right,
Now, Dana's position has been, well, he's a member, he should have some rights. At the same time, that may be a two-edged sword.
right.
And it may be that as a member, just like if he was a member of a union, I mean, I've been a member of unions most of my life.
Mhm.
Okay, I walked my first picket line when I was a junior in high school. A court might say, well, this doesn't have as much to do with the general public, like the Pruneyard case.
Mhm.
You're a member, but as a member, just like if I'm a member of a church,
Mhm.
a church has the right, even unfairly, and
To banish
I mean,
you.
the courts don't like to get involved, to discipline or disfellowship,
Mhm.
discipline the members.
Right.
So it may be that an organization like the Mediana
Mhm.
or the food co-op, which has members, which is a special status,
Mhm.
different than the general public,
Right,
might have a right to discipline their members. But since it's also available as a general outlet for groceries,
Mhm.
should that include that discipline, the right to trespass or ban a member altogether?
That goes back to a judge having to decide that. I'm not a judge, I don't know the laws, I don't know the RCWs governing that. I would think that it would be, because it's open to the public,
Okay.
that it would be
Now
considered.
now I'm gonna pin you down.
Okay.
Okay. So if you were the supreme dictator or the judge, how would you like to see that question answered if it was up to you?
That's not pinning me down, that's asking me for an opinion
I am.
that doesn't make any difference, it holds no clout, doesn't have the power of law. But I would think that, no, they should not be able to ban data.
In other words, you think some things maybe just either aren't any of the co-op's business, or that its ability to discipline its members should have limits?
Well, if somebody came into the co-op wielding a knife or a weapon of some kind,
Yeah, I think that's a different kettle of
they would
fish.
really have to do
Of
something about
course,
that,
but
right?
we all have an
Somebody
inherent
that's
right to
presenting-
self-defense.
Yeah, somebody that's presenting violence to the co-op,
But I don't think.
and I
any-
agree with you,
any violence
Dana was not doing that.
I don't think any violence was alleged here.
No.
Robin
Alleged,
admitted
yes.
as much.
Violence
What was
was.
alleged was that Dana Walker was exercising, whether he was aware of it or not, white male privilege.
Right, that's true, that's true.
And he was banned on that basis and trespassed because he wouldn't kowtow and agree to that and sign a contract that would have obligated him to a lot of reduced him to basically a child status and obligate him to agree to be tutored and be re-educated. I guess what I'm getting at is favor social justice, but in the pursuit of that has the co-op become indistinguishable between social justice advocate and a political indoctrination cult masquerading as a boutique of foods and alcohol venue.
That's a rather harsh way of putting it.
It is,
It really
but I want to
is.
get right to the point.
Well, that's your opinion, that's your point. I think it was mishandled. I agree that it was not handled correctly. And I think that an injustice was done to Dana, for whatever reasons. And I think that needs to be rectified.
Am I going to be welcome in the food co-op if I'm a card-carrying Republican?
Well, not a Republican, but a Trumper?
Well, there we are.
No,
If I come in
I'm
there
just kidding.
wearing a "Make America Great Again" with Trump's image on my T-shirt,
It's
are
funny
they
you
gonna
should
ask me
bring
to
that
leave
up,
because
but
they're uncomfortable?
It's funny you should bring that up, but I had a customer come in with a Make America Great hat on.
And what happened?
And with an attitude. He had a really bad
They
attitude.
didn't like his attitude.
Well, I handled it as best I could, and another staff member jumped in. He was being very abrasive, and I was trying to answer his questions, and he wasn't having any of it. And then a staff member came over, because I was fairly new,
Sure.
and she jumped in and she took over, and he left very unhappy, but he came back again, so it wasn't he wasn't banned, and he was very nasty.
There's a lot of assholes out there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we've got enough paper to ban them all. Do you know who Mary Watt is?
Yes, I know Mary Watt.
Mary Watt says that she was treated rather shabbily.
That's what I've heard. She said that, yes.
And that's a shame. I know Mary Watt too, have for years. It's not like she's a personal friend, but she certainly doesn't deserve to be treated badly.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty difficult to inject yourself effectively between two parties at each other's throats over
Mhm.
a personal conflict.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're at risk of maybe behaving like a bull in a china shop.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like to see the co-op take a more hands-off approach as long as it's not regarding behavior and problems that are interfering with its mission on its premises?
I would like the co-op to be a bridge builder. In other words, to handle these situations with a little more compassion and less punitiveness.
Well, what's going on in Israel, people have strong views about that. The Palestinians being attacked. Israel's a very strong military power in the region. But is that why volunteers sign up to work for no pay at the food co-op, is because of its political posture regarding foreign policy?
No, I don't think so.
Do you think maybe they're not qualified to be making conclusions about foreign policy as a food co-op?
That's a tough call. I mean, when you're talking about something that is as violent as what they're doing to the Palestinians, and let's be clear, we're talking about Zionists, not Jews. There's a difference. Ask any Hasidic Jew, and they will tell you. I'm of Jewish heritage too. Springer, it's a Jewish name.
Mm-hmm.
And the Zionists are zealots, just like ISIS is zealots, just like the Ku Klux Klan is zealots, just like your Pentecostal Christians are zealots. And I don't have much tolerance for zealots.
And I highly recommend you don't invite these people home for dinner.
I wouldn't.
But when they come in to buy groceries, they're not being invited home for dinner.
They're not being banned from buying at the grocery store either. Jews can come into the grocery store and buy.
Have you been on the Evergreen State College campus?
It's been years, but I've been there, yes.
I recommend that you go up in the building where the student union offices are, okay?
Mhm.
I think it's on the third floor, and there's a student-run food sandwiches deli there, called the Flaming Eggplant. And they got a sign posted, and basically the sign says, if anyone inside the Flaming Eggplant is uncomfortable with you for any reason, we reserve the right to ask you to leave. In fact, they insist on it. You say that you're for a unifying approach rather than an approach that divides people. If the Flaming Eggplant's ideas became accepted at the food co-op and other venues, wouldn't we end up with a more contentious, stressful street scene than if we kind of, to the best of our ability, minded our own business when we're in a public venue?
I haven't been out to the Evergreen campus, and I haven't seen that.
Okay.
And I think that's part of the anti-oppression practices.
Right.
That they're thinking that if somebody comes in there, and like if somebody came in there open carrying their weapon, and people inside the Flaming Eggplant, is that what they call it?
The Flaming Eggplant.
Okay,
yeah.
if they were
That's the name
uncomfortable
of
with
it.
that.
I mean, I didn't pick the name.
Yeah, if they were uncomfortable with that, I can agree with asking somebody who's carrying a weapon to leave. But like anything else, as human beings, we tend to go to extremes with things.
Well,
And you're talking about people going to
A
extremes.
T-shirt, Trudy, at home that I bought 3 of them because I like the logo on it. It's got Ganesh, you know, the
Yes, I know.
elephant god
Yes.
of mischief that many Hindus
Mhm.
feel reverent about.
Mhm.
But there's a guy, when I was younger, in one of the local lumber store I went in. He had a T-shirt on, okay?
Mhm.
And the clerk, who I knew very well across the counter, we were just sort of rolling our eyes and grinning at each other behind the guy's back. He had this T-shirt, and it had some male and some buxom blonde, young color on his T-shirt, in a a romantic embrace, and it said, "Macon Bacon." Okay, well, a lot of people would think that would be like the epitome of the male chauvinist pig kind of logo.
Mhm.
But nobody asked him to leave the store.
Mhm.
Okay. Anyway, I've covered quite a bit, and like, you're running for office, so would you please tell the voters why they should vote for you?
Because I bring a New York attitude to the board.
I don't know what that means. I've never been to New York. Could
Well,
you
you're gonna
explain
find
that?
out then, aren't you?
Maybe. What is a New York attitude?
Well, there again, we have to pull in our reins because we tend to be very confrontational, in your face, called bull crap on bull crap. And we like to play
So
games.
you like keeping it real?
Excuse me?
You like keeping it real?
Right.
Okay.
That's my culture. That's what I was raised with.
Okay.
If I think you're being a jerk, I'm going to tell you you're being a jerk.
And you're going to be able to, you have enough time, you're going to be able to dedicate it to this position?
I don't have anything else to do,
And
except
you
for
think-
listening to my arteries harden.
Okay. So you think that some of the problems that are going on there, that you can help resolve those?
I would like to think I can.
Okay.
I can certainly give it an effort.
Well, what
To
time
try.
have you got now?
It's almost 1 o'clock.
2 o'clock.
I mean, 2 o'clock, sorry.
Well, I think I'm going to wind this down.
Okay.
So do you have anything else you want to?
No, just that I
This
like the
could-
co-op and I
I'm-
want to improve the co-op. I want to work on its strengths, not its weaknesses. And I want to be a bridge builder, not a bridge burner.
Okay. Well, I think that's for Trudy Springer,
Yes, thank you.
running for office as the member of the board of directors
Mhm.
for the Olympia Food Co-op, I want to really thank you for coming in and letting me grill you and so forth, and I wish you the best.
Thank you, John, I appreciate that.
Thank you. This has been a video by Soul Snatcher Productions, and it's now 2 o'clock roughly on Tuesday, the 24th
Of October.
of October, Thursday. Thank you.
Can I get up now?
Thursday.